You are live. But switch off the sound.
Sound?
Sound nahi hai na? We are talking, no?
Ah,
Can you go back?
given it so far. And first chairman was Hamid, was Baron, our second chairman is here, His Excellency Mahmoud Sultan, and now it's me at your service. The main reason, I must say, for the established planning today, so that and today we have Majesty Sultan Hikmat's blessing. The real lucky thing we have had. We need to encourage and promote bilateral trade. It's very important that trade and investment people. Friendship, we know we are friends. We'll be closer when we do business with each other. With that, may I welcome the business ambassador. Thank you.
Thank you, Salah. It's lovely to see so many of you, especially at a weekend, so thank you for giving up your time today. But as Salah said, this is very important. Currently, of course, the UK and the whole of the GCC are negotiating a free trade agreement, and I'm a very optimistic person, as those of you who know me know. But I genuinely am optimistic that we will soon have good news on that front. And one of my jobs as the steward of the UK Oman relationship here in Oman is to make sure that we can make the most of the opportunities that we will get in investment and trade and services if we are successful in getting that trade agreement over the line. So I view this as a sort of a prelude to greater things to come. But I think it's absolutely right that that the friendship that we've enjoyed with Oman, celebrating the 225th anniversary this year of the treaty that said our friendship would remain unshook until the end of time. But that friendship depends on people-to-people connections, and some of those people-to-people connections are best done through business-to-business connections. We're both very proud, open, outward-looking trading nations. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what the future has to offer. And I know we're in for a treat today. So thank you very much.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, as well as ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A very warm welcome to each and every one of you. I'd also like to welcome our members from our sister organization, the British Omani Society, who are joining us from the UK today because we are streaming live. So smile, you're on camera. Welcome. I really would like to say that today is an incredible privilege for me to really introduce our speaker, Hamid Hamirani, who is not only a former colleague to a number of us over here. There are a lot of people here from the Ministry of Finance, from the Central Bank, from PDO, your previous life, basically, Hamid. So you're not only a former colleague, but you're also a very dear friend. And I'm so proud to be the one introducing you here today. With over 35 years of leadership experience spanning both public and private sectors, Hamid has been a trusted advisor to governments, including our very own, to sovereign wealth funds, as well as to global corporations. I personally, as I've mentioned, have had the pleasure of working with you. When you're on the board finance committee, and I see Zahir al-Wahabi here, you'll remember those times as part of the Petroleum Development Oman committees. Your strategic insights were exceptional, and your foresight certainly kept us on our toes. I also recall attending a number of Hamid's presentations up to 13 years ago as part of the ACCA platform. And subhanAllah, the insights that he had, even back then, were extremely powerful because he asked us to focus on areas such as gold. And to this date, I kick myself for not listening to this man. I would have been a multimillionaire, Hamid, but I did not listen. He emphasized on artificial intelligence. He talked about shale oil and also emerging technologies such as AI. I can personally testify to this. I've been in many of your presentations, Hamid. Today, BSG International, where Hamid serves as the managing director, is leading smart industry initiatives. And these are basically introducing pioneering technologies from the University of Oxford. And these are being introduced to major businesses across all of Oman. So watch this space. This initiative, I understand, is helping to drive innovation as well as reducing emissions and, importantly, significantly lowering operational costs. Amarnath is listening. Please fasten your seatbelts. You're in for a good ride in a couple of minutes. Join me in welcoming Hamid Hamirani as he shares his insights on the exciting topic of the Great Financial Reset. Hamid, welcome.
Assalamu alaikum, and thank you sincerely for coming, especially on Saturday. It's been an honor. I'm so excited, seriously, because I'm meeting my ACC. We used to start a chapter ACC here, and I'm happy that Zahir is here, who's leading it now. So it was good. And I have a collection of thoughts, sort of WhatsApp group. There are family members of that. Haifa is one of the founding members. So it's a nostalgic thing. I would also like to really sincerely thank Her Excellency, because she has been really sincere. I wish she was there when we were in Ministry of Finance. We could have done so much. She is so much behind making sure that President Oman works well, and not just works well, executes it. I remember 5th of October, I met her in a small room. She came, she's the ambassador, and she came in a little room with us, and she is the one who gave the strategy of smart industry. So thank you, Your Excellency, and I really feel that with her leadership, we are going to be, running. I would also like to thank His Excellency Makbul. I met him when he was on the SGRF board, and I remember whenever I used to sort of get frustrated and would say, I'll come to him, and he would welcome me literally and give me guidances. So it's amazing. Amarnath, thank you for coming, my colleague, from Ministry of Finance, and all of you. Right, and I must also thank Haifa, Giselle and Keaton, because I don't think sincerely, I'm telling you, the efforts they put in, kept me on toes, even though I was because I've been traveling quite a lot, so I've had sleepless nights. But mashallah, I mean, what a powerful team they have. And equally, people who are listening, where's the camera for Zoom?
Here, right there.
Rosa, Chris, you guys have been an amazing people. Smart industry would not have happened if Chris, you wouldn't have put the backing there. Rosa, if you wouldn't have worked very hard. So thank you. So it's amazing that Boss and Oman Business Society have really collaborated. I've never seen such collaboration. And I think this is amazing. I think I've already taken quite a few minutes of my time, but I thought this had to be said, So today's topic, why I call Trump as a disruptor is because I think Adnan is here as well, but in the last few, about 10 years or something, we have had so many disruptions. I think we are going through the technology disruption, we are going through the energy one, we had pandemic. So I hope that this is the last one. But I really think that this is why I thought I will sort of put, who's controlling the presentation?
You can.
You can.
And just this one, yeah? Okay. So, but most important thing, okay, I hope you will forgive me for this, is this slide. This slide, okay? Why this is important is because what I'm going to say, I know Haifa said she's kicking that she did not invest in gold, but I want you to this is an informative presentation, right? Please do not start investing just because I or the BOS is saying it. You got to take it. Mashallah, I know most of you, you've got amazing intellect, and I'm sure you will do it. But it's just some fun sharing information, and I hope you'll see, you write this thing. I want to give a little bit of a background before I go into the side. So what is the financial reset? I mean, up until now, in 2001, when China joined the WTO, China became the factory for the world. Okay, And thanks to that factory, we were able to get cheap goods. Christmas lights, shoes, you name it all, okay? But what China did was, whatever the dollar students, whatever the dollars that China was earning, they basically invested in US Treasury. While they were doing it, of course, US Treasury is considered to be a very safe sort of haven, but also it enabled them to really make sure that Chinese yuan stays so that they are export competitive. That was the model. It ran beautifully up until quite a while. But in 2018, if you remember, Huawei, USA started getting nervous about China, and we'll see why they were getting nervous. And then they started talking about banning the chips to going there, Huawei, and all those things. So China woke up and said, whoa, hang on, this is something completely new. And therefore they started investing in technology. And if you remember, they also started the belt, the One Belt Initiative, because what China thought that instead of just investing in treasury, which they do, I'm not saying that they don't, let us also diversify into real assets. So that's why they started sort of getting into Sri Lankan ports and Africa, and also these are all real estate things. But I think in 2022, here we talk about President Trump's executive orders, and yes, amazingly, he's done many. Okay? But if you were to put me on spot, and say that what is this one order which really has sort of basically, if I use that word, a bad one, was when Russia invaded Ukraine, and through an executive order, President, we didn't go through the Congress or the Senate, but through just the order, he said he's going to freeze all the assets, the dollar assets. That also jerked a lot of people, including China. They said, oh my God, is it safe to put it in US Treasury? So you can see I've built up that sort of case, and now that's have fun, okay? So basically, before I go into, so that's really the change of financial order. Okay? So before sell, put it in US Treasury. Now, what should we do? Because we've got to do something different. I hope you had enough time to read the disclaimer. So let's see what's happening. Okay. So if you really look at it, is now there's a very famous geopolitical expert called George Friedman. I don't know whether you've heard of him. Stanford, he was founder of. And he goes to that extent. I've been very polite here because this is public information and he's going. But what he is saying that Russia failed. Because initially, remember, they wanted to take the Krym, and quite a lot of the land. They only got 20%. And what that meant was that is Russia really a threat? Do we really want to invest in Europe, defense or something? That's kind of the thinking, but that's George Friedman's opinion. But that is one of the catalytic that you are seeing, where Mr. Trump is saying, America first. I'm not going to sort of pay, you will pay your own defense, Europe. So that is a kind of a thought. Then if you really look at it, so that's sort of his thinking. His Cold War, did the Cold War ended in 2022 when Russia invaded, because Russia did not succeed to. And there's one more element which I'm a technology, sort of a sucker, and I tell you, even in defense, if you really look at it, what's happening with Houthis, with this shoulder arm missiles, and also the technology has evolved so much, and we'll talk about technology later, that defending is much more easier, than attacking. Then, if you really look at it, so what is the new concern of geopolitics? Is this China concern over heavy dependence on China? If you look on the right, can you guys see this on? And if you can, then that's good. Look, how much of the percentages, can I play how do you do is there a red pointer, something I can point? Or not? It's okay if you do.
Should be. No,
It's all right, don't mind.
Yeah.
So if you go on this table, okay, and if you look at it, rare earth, 74%, of US imports, comes from China, and all these materials. And this is the new geopolitical Cold War, maybe phasing out, but this is what they're scared of. And that is one of the reasons, if you really, and the other thing, why they're scared of is because what happened, they're worried about what happened in 1970 with the Arab embargo, when the Israel sort of, attack was there. And I think this is what their genuine concern is in terms of whatever you're seeing from Mr. Trump and, Scott Bassett, the Treasury Secretary, and all his team. These are, in my opinion, are the reasons that what you're saying was happening. So let's see what's happening. I just want to just give the background so you guys are all with me to what's happening. So if you look at now, tariff, oh my God, tariff. Okay, so there could be 2 or 3 reasons for it. Okay, one is basically, is it really to earn revenue? So if you put tariff, obviously, if somebody from US is importing Chinese products or any other products, they're going to pay now 40%. If it was 130%, it's now reduced to 40%. On the Liberation Day, it was 130%. Mr. Trump called it. But now, so what that 40% is a tax that the government will collect as a tariff. So that's a part of why, because they want to finance this. On the right, if you look at it, this is how the debts, US debts, we all know it. You must be seeing it on, I was getting bored with it, but now it's around $36 trillion. And now the interest cost on that debt is higher than the defense spending that they're doing. So just imagine, and interest rates are going up. So what Mr. Trump wants is, hey, how are we going to make money? Because this is a heart attack moment, believe me, what we are going through in American economy. Scott Bassett is a genius. If you read about it, the Treasury Secretary, he is basically saying to Trump, we got to do something about it. No more. And, US is having twin deficit. What is twin deficit for people who have the students? Okay, so the guinea pigs. So basically, twin deficit is the budget deficit, which is the country's income and expenses, and then you have deficit. So that's one deficit, and then this one, which is basically the trade, and with the difference between import and export, and now the debts. Okay, as a result, when your expenditures are high, your income is down, you always borrow. So this is your twin deficit. That is what. So is tariff all about this? Or a lot of people, before even tariff was introduced, imagine this is a big ganda, and Mr. Trump, okay, he's a what do you call USA real estate hope, Is he just trying to scare them all? That if I put 130%, are you going to open the trade for me? So that is where we got to look at it where it is, And again, if you look at it in terms of leverage, it seems to be working, right? Britain has said we will talk about it. Britain did not. Britain was very wise. I'm telling you that they just basically said, okay, we're going to think about it. Vietnam caved. The next day they said zero tariff on USA. So is this? This is to be sort of really established. But right now, as it stands, Trump has reversed the tariffs. He's now put for all the countries in the world around something like 10% and 40% for China. So that is it. The other thing is, Mr. Trump thinks that, hey guys, you're making money because you've been importing all this. So it's kind of a tax on you because if we don't going to consume, you're not going to export. So it's all right. So that's another thought in terms of tariff, okay? But tariff has its risks, inflation is, quite high. And therefore you've got to be careful when all these, de-dollarization, because why people are talking about it, as I explained to you the background, okay? No more the treasury model, the real estate, and all those sort of things. We talk about gold in the next slide. And this is what it is. But what Mr. Trump wants to leave a legacy is the Main Street elected him. Yeah? And he wants to be the Main Street president. He doesn't want to be the Wall Street president. You know, one of the big supermarket chain recently said that, oh, tariff, we will have to put it into action. You know, basically, we have to increase the prices. And he tweeted, eat it. Yeah. And he's very much aggressive, you know, in terms of in that. And he is, in my opinion, again, it's purely my opinion, I think he is really dead against the establishment. You know, and you saw what happened. He's more aligning because of this. Give you an example. Apple phone, okay, if you go and look at it, you must have all read it, okay, that the cost of producing Apple phone in China is very little. But when Haifa and I go and buy it, we pay a lot of fortune to pay. So what is saying, why do you have to pay so much when it costs very little? Is it fair on Chinese factory workers that they're not being paid properly as well? So see, his thinking, because he's a trader. He's not a politician. He's definitely not a politician. So now come to Haifa's favorite topic, gold. Now here I'm looking at it from two perspectives, okay? From UK, the first slide, and we'll go to the Chinese, why China is into. Now, what, you know, when you are going to basically, I mean, if you can see, it says dollar continues to dominate the global trade, okay? You're talking about 50, and on the right are the charts to say, see all that to support it, okay?
Yes.
But remember, gold and Bitcoin are not connected with financial or policies, okay, that we do. Everything else is, okay. What Mr. Trump wants to do, and Scott Basie, this is Scott Basie, this is not Mr. Trump. Basically what he's saying, we can continue to trade in dollar, but as far okay, but so this is okay. What they're saying that because you know when people buy treasury, right? Dollar appreciate. Remember the Chinese were trying to get their currency sort of lower so they can do export, which really sort of upsets USA. So what they say that as far as reserves are concerned, maybe you can go in gold. And why I'm saying this, because if you look at it, he put tariff on everything. Yes, nothing on, gold. So that's one of the, again, thoughts. Okay, you may agree or disagree with it, but this is just a thought. So can you see now, if you really look at it, how the reserves are going down in terms of, and this is the trade thing. Okay, this is good. I wish I'd known this before. These rate pointers. And I call myself a technology guy. Okay, now let's look at it from Chinese perspective. So here, look, China is worried about, they are the biggest importer of oil, okay? And if you want to buy oil, whether you are in Timbuktu or Germany or anywhere, you cannot buy in their currency. You have to buy the dollar and then pay the dollar settlement. So dollar, what China worries about, remember I talked to you about 2018 when they started getting worried about technology being stopped, treasury, oh my God, should we go into it? I'll talk about the bombs if I don't, remind me, okay, on that. But so basically, for their energy security, they want to create a mechanism, the new financial order, where they are saying, hey, why don't you buy renminbi from us? But just imagine, renminbi and dollar are, in terms of trust, okay, is a huge, right? So that's why they're saying, I'm going to back it with gold. So that's where China is interested. And if you really look at it in here, see how much, payment currency of the renminbi. Did you see that? It's huge, okay? So that's what they've done. They're introducing it now in Saudi Arabia as well. In this, so that is, now I hope I've given you the reason why the gold from the two largest economies are interested. So Haifa, what do you think? You'll buy at 3,000 crores?
Is there any indication that it might drop at some point?
If I knew, then I wouldn't be standing and doing this presentation. I'm just like you, although I did invest a little bit, but you were earning much more than me. So we are at the same page. You get on, she's telling me get off. Okay, now let's look at what China is doing. And I hope by now you have got an appreciation of what is this new financial order, right? Yeah, so let's go back. Okay, so what we are doing, dollar-denominated assets made up 55% of China's official currencies, at the end of 2008. See how much they have reduced? 27%. Okay, so this was here, and then this is 27%. Why? Because they want, to protect. It's really for energy security. Because what happens is, if they end up, and remember they are devaluing the renminbi, so they would end up paying a lot for the oil. So that's what they are doing. They are going into real assets. They are going into gold. Okay. Then if you look at it, again, it's almost the same thing. But if you look at it, this is a bigger list of manufacturing capacity of China, sort of thing. So what they are, again, going back to, they're going into real estate. It's nothing against USA. It's just China first. It's not. I mean, media people will make you believe, oh my God, this no. I mean, what is wrong? I mean, we have policies here in Oman, which protects our interests, right? So, but they weren't created. I mean, today, if you really look at it, BYD, which is the car producers. I mean, you can buy an electric vehicle for $10,000. And Indonesia is buying it, India is buying it. So China has really sort of evolved, from how many millions of people they pulled out from poverty. So this is just an indication. So we saw the US, we saw the Chinese. Okay, so now you're going to say, and this is the biggest disclaimer here, okay? So look, when people start buying, if I use moving away from the dollar, and we saw the dollar reserves have gone down, right? We saw the chart, okay? What it does is, and which I think has not been captured as yet, seriously, and nobody's talking. So, guys, this is the first time, BOS member, this is the first time you're hearing it, that currency appreciations will happen. Taiwan currency is already appreciated in last 2 or 3 weeks, okay? So currency appreciation is there. India currency will appreciate, as well, because if you don't have to go through dollar, then Indian currency becomes a common one straight away, right? So I think that's one of the important things. Now, there is a very famous, Adnan will help me on this one, index for equity called Schiller's index, okay? Schiller was a Nobel Prize students for you, Nobel Prize winner. Okay, he came up with saying that the earning multiples, PE multiples, is one of the way you value the stocks. Okay, and earning multiples of US stock is 36, which is significantly high. And when you do 36 multiple, you are more likely to make only 3% return higher than inflation. And according to USA, I don't believe in inflation, that's another topic, but 3% is what they say. So just imagine if you are an equity investor in US equity, you're going to make 6%, right? Bonds, you saw what's happening, right? And I said I would talk about the bonds. So let's talk about it. Bonds, okay, this is fixed sort of income, government raises their debts and they issue bonds, okay? So the bonds, basically, right now, what is it, 4.6 or something? I don't know, 4.6%, isn't it something like that for 10-year treasury? Yeah. What is inflation today? According to USA, 3%. Just few months back in September last year, the US inflation rate was 9%. How much? 9%. and the bond yield was only 3.8%. This doesn't make sense. That's where people are worried. Honestly, don't make it a personal issue. This is really a lack of clarity of policy because we are doing fiscal stimulus like there is no tomorrow. Even last week, the brilliant bill, which was passed in the budget of US, was passed. There is a fiscal stimulus. So people are worried that if we are going to stay in bond, you're getting say 4.6% okay today, and if inflation is 9%, and if you're a pensioner, you're gone. So that is let me talk a little bit. I'll talk a bit more Arabic. How's the music? So basically, what I'm saying to you is there is a broken system here. So please do not make it as China is against us or India is against or somebody else. It's a broken system. Even you will go part of it, right? Because at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you earn from bond, which are considered to be the safe haven, more than your inflation. And that is what is carrying. So what I believe will happen is rotation of investments into Europe is very cheap. The PE ratios of Europe is much cheaper. Asia, as we know, the currencies, when you make investment returns, there are two things which happens, right? One is the return you make, but also you can really, all that return can go if you have got an exchange rate, a negative exchange rate. So if you have made 10% return, but your currency is depreciated 20%, you have made a negative 10% return. So people are concerned. So that makes me to believe that European and Asian investments will be the rotation. People will rotate out. They will go into those kind of investments. There will be, of course, some very good US companies. I'm not talking about complete US. There are good companies and you can invest in them for sure. But what you need to do is to be careful. Just on this note, I'll just pause. How many of you, can you raise hand and just tell me you believe in gold? Not many. So you were not alone 10 years ago. There was only 5 people who believed in me at that time. So there you go. And I tell you why you are worried about it. And I'll give you an example of gold, okay? Gold has appreciated tremendously. Let's see one example, okay? So if you put the gold value, to oil value, okay? In 2010, 15 years ago, 1 barrel with 1 ounce of gold, 1 ounce of gold will give you 7 barrels of oil. 15 years ago. Anybody wants to guess what it is today? 1 ounce of gold, how many barrels do you get? Speak now or hold your silence forever.
6 times.
How much? 6 times.
10 times 5, about 50.
MashaAllah, 55 barrels, 8 times. So what I'm trying to say here is perhaps gold is, but then don't forget, we shouldn't, and this is a mistake we all make. What we make is, oh my God, it's 55. But look, this is a new financial order. China wants gold. You saw that how much aggressively China is buying, right? US is saying, I'm not going to put tariff. Don't come in my treasury because you're going to make my dollar up. Okay? Do go there. So I can tell you one very clever person I follow has said it could go to 7,500. So I don't know, I'm not saying it is going to go down, but gold will still have a play for sure. Because why? It is disconnected with the financial assets. Okay, that's very important for you guys. And Bitcoin may have also, I know Adnan and me used to have a lot of arguments. We won.
Digital gold.
Did you make million? Did you make a million? Tell me afterwards. But you know what's happening is, remember I say to you what Mr. Trump is saying, oh, Europe, you will fight for your own defense, right? Food security is becoming a big issue. I think 2 days later you're having a very nice event. I wish I was here, flying back on 26th of Ramadan to be there. I think, you will see people saying, oh, gold has become quite sort of expensive, so let's go to commodities. And I'll come to this point when we talk about Oman, in a minute, which is almost there. So I really feel, and one thing you must remember, that, and I may be wrong in this because the bill that just passed last week, there's UK and US is still stimulating. They shouldn't be, but they are. So I don't know, I may be totally wrong, but until they do the fiscal, my gut feeling is, and I hope you will agree, that cost of finance are going to go high. So when you're making your investment team decisions, those are the things that you need to think about. Cost is going high. PE ratio of US is very high. US is still fiscal. US bonds, as I explained to you, may not earn you the inflation, covering. So I'm giving you the tools. You decide where you want to go. But this is what it is. So let's talk about Oman. I lived 22 years of my life here. And I seriously, I'm only here because I feel you guys have given me so much that I have to continue to do many multiples, to inshallah earn back whatever you guys have given. So my thing is, in terms of Oman earnings, if dollar is going to go down because of de-dollarization, which you have seen the chart, no, you don't have to believe in me, and you have already seen what China is doing. And if it's going down, then of course we got to be careful about our imports because we import quite a lot. And that's where I would add, and seriously, that when we are talking about diversification, from oil, I really feel we should also say risk mitigation against import inflation. I think that should be in Vision 2040 as well, because I think that is very important. Tiananmen Square massacre. I know you won't know that you were not even involved, but you must have seen many people was because of the food inflation. Arab Spring was because of the food inflation. And here in Oman, you will say to me that Hamid, the inflation is only 1.7. No, you're subsidizing it. Right? And I have a solution. I'll come to, and I will give you the solution in a minute. But what I'm saying to you is, Oman has to be very careful that if dollar is going down, your import inflation is coming. And even at the sovereign wealth funds, there are people here or listening here, that inflation and exchange currency can really wipe out because of land, that, right? So one of the suggestions no surprise is the first one, right? Straight away. And I'm not saying that you go and take away all your results. I'll just give you an example. I've got my notes, so I can't give you other examples, but I'll give you one example. So, out of your foreign exchange reserves, which are, I think, about 17 billion, am I right? Yeah. And only 3.7% is in gold. Compared to, I think, I'll give you the figures if I can't remember, but just to give you the one I can remember, Kuwait is 8.7%. Saudi Arabia is 4.3%. Germany and all these economies are over 20%. China is about 16%. India is around that. So think it in that context. But I think it would be brilliant if there are central bank colleagues sitting with us. Please think about it. Look at your reserves and maybe sort of puts a little bit. Don't forget, you're not investing. Gold is not an investor asset. I completely agree. It's an insurance, and you're insuring against your inflation risk. Okay, and I'll explain to you. Just there it is. This is where I'm going to come. Your sovereign wealth funds. Look. If you invest in commodities, say for example, if we are right, and I'm pretty confident that commodity inflation will come unless we have a huge recession. But even then it comes. Why? Because climate is not friendly, right? It's getting hot. The food yields are going down. You know what I mean? Natural disasters are coming. I was in Rwanda. I lived 6 months in Rwanda advising their sovereign wealth fund. And basically, In that year, they had flood and they wiped away all the crops, most of the crops, would you believe it? And these farmers were so poor that they could not even insure themselves. And then in the end, what happened? Companies' fiscal reserves have to go, and the African countries' fiscal reserves are nothing, right? So that is where what I would propose, that if the sovereign wealth fund can put some allocation into commodity, so the companies which produce commodities, what happens is if you have an inflation on the market on the main street, the commodity prices of that sovereign wealth fund investment goes up. So right now, you are financing it through your fiscal resources, the subsidies. Now you have an automatic mechanism to earn money so that you can go and sort of address the subsidies. So you don't have to take it from, of course, you might still have to take it. It can't be sort of like a, sort of exact match, but at least you mitigate and you help your financial reserves to be there, fiscal reserves, but also you act against inflation straight away. Remember Tiananmen Square, Arab Spring? So that sovereign wealth funds have an important duty to look at it. I also feel that Oman has done a phenomenal. I mean, wherever I go, I mean, I was recently in Singapore and Malaysia, and everywhere where I visit, people adore our foreign policy. Okay. So, and even if you look at, if you look at our ports, seaports, okay, how cleverly Oman has mashallah done it. I mean, you just appreciate afterward. It makes sense. At that time, I didn't think about it, but look at it. What Sarana port is AP Murad, right? American company, right? Sohar port is what do you call Rotterdam?
Yeah.
Yeah, and what's his name? Duckham is Antwerp. Yeah. So, yeah, and so there you go. See, even in your infrastructure, you have been brilliant. In terms of you've invited Chinese companies, you've invited other companies. UK and what do you call USA. So Oman is already doing. So we don't need to worry too much about it. And because I was wrong, I will shut up. Thank you very much for giving me the time.
Please don't go away, Hamid. You never cease to amaze me.
Can I take some water, please?
Yes. Or I'll get you. I'll get you on this one.
Yeah, sure.
No. I'll get you.
Please.
Oh my God, there's more.
Hamid never ceases to amaze me. Bismillah, mashallah. Thank you very much for that very enlightening presentation. And now I need to compete with you. Can you all hear me without a mic?
Yes.
I came on, right? So I'm told that we need to have a hard talk with Hamid now.
With soft answers.
Hopefully with hard answers. So let's dissect a little bit about what you've said here today and help us understand a little bit deeper from your insights. So one of your slides, you talked about dollars for trade and gold for reserves, right? Now we've got members of the Central Bank of Oman here, members of the Ministry of Finance. I'd like to start by exploring Oman's dollar peg dilemma. With the dollar losing reserve share, as you've indicated to us, and Oman's rial pegged to it, how do you reconcile advising Oman to buy gold, never mind Haifa, now we're talking about the country, all right, with maintaining a stable peg? And also, is a repeg feasible, or is this a fiscal trap?
That's a great question, and if you really look at it, I feel that the peg has served enormously well for Oman. It breeds investor confidence. I mean, we were part of, and I remember Shell always used to say that one of the reasons we invest is because dollar is, we can't have a currency risk. Remember I said currency risk was mitigated.
Yes.
What is happening at the moment is really the beginning, okay? How it will materialize, we don't know. Okay, remember Mr. Trump is a trader.
Right.
Okay, so I wouldn't rush into it, but I would, as I explained to you in my presentation, that our gold percentage of the total reserve is pretty low.
Sure.
And I think it would be good that if the central bank colleagues or Ministry of Finance want to take it up, we can.
The decision is already taken in the country.
Okay, so there you go. I didn't know that. Okay, seriously.
Sure.
I'm too late.
But that's okay, you had a similar sentiment. Although you did add also another angle around commodities, which I'd like to come back to a little bit later. So let's move then on to, go ahead, please, no. Please.
The thing is that we shouldn't be static, okay? Because we are now in a completely new financial model.
For sure.
So my suggestion would be, like for example, we 80% of our oil, according to 2023 report, is to China.
Mhm.
Yes. Okay, our volumes are very little. Okay, so for China, it's nothing. They won't worry about it because they are more interested. Their FDI, is relatively very little compared to. I'm very proud that UK is at the top, in terms of FDI investments.
Correct.
So the point I'm making is, and I would urge this, especially the youngsters from central bank, that the global scenario is changing. We are, what Neil Howe, one of the top thinker, says we are in the fourth turning. Fourth turning is winter. Third turning is autumn, and second turning is, and we are literally at the cusp, of leaving the third turning and fourth. So I think gone are the days that we should just be complacent and sit together.
Right.
So I would suggest that at least few years, every 2-3 years, there should be review, and think what about it, in terms of what are the new. I mean, Kuwait, if you really look at it, they got a basket, right? I mean, the 75% is dollar, but the 25% is. And I think because especially the dollar, if de-dollarization is happening, then you do risk import inflation. Although I've given you the commodity solution, but still, I mean, it's good. So I would put that caveat that keep on looking at it,
And be nimble and agile.
Absolutely.
So, okay, let's go a little bit to Lenin. Not John Lennon, Vladimir Lenin. So he said there are decades when nothing happens, and there are weeks when decades happen. And let's not go too far away from home. Rumi said the same thing in different words. When it rains, it pours, he said. So let's explore your theory in terms of petro-yuan realism. Help me understand. You said China's petro-yuan is backed by gold, right? But then you also said in the same slide that the dollar still dominates SWIFT. Is this a credible shift in your view, or is it political posturing? And importantly, given we have a lot of key decision makers in the audience here, should Oman risk pricing oil in yuan given its neutrality?
The answer simple is no, because I mean, as I said, our volumes are very little. We can, we have opened doors to China anywhere with infrastructure investments. I believe there's investments going on. So because as I explained to you that at the moment we are at the cusp, we're just beginning, sorry, not even cusp, we're at the very beginning of it. And I would definitely not advise knee-jerk reactions. And it's nothing to do with neutrality. Neutrality is in the DNA of Oman, so I'm not worried about that. This is in your DNA. But all I'm saying is when you're taking a decision, it's important that you evaluate. And for right now, especially with the volumes that we are talking about, is peanuts.
But we also don't want neutrality to work against us.
Yeah, true. But I mean, in the sense that that I'm not worried about, because Oman has got years of sort of trust. Can I share one example?
Sure.
This is one of the senior ministers. I had dinner with him, former minister, and he said, I will not name him. What he said was that he was in Korea, and the Koreans told him that, your prince, came, and we were having problems between North Korea and South Korea, and every kind of, all these high mighty negotiators come and they were not able. And then this prince, he was visiting us, literally, and he sold it. Can you believe what Oman has to do with North Korea and South Korea? This is within the DNA,
Yes. Yes.
And I'm very proud to say on the camera that that prince is now, mashallah, His Majesty.
Inshallah. Inshallah. Thank you for that. Now, we do have a number of bankers in our audience. We've got Standard Chartered, we have Sohar International, we have State Street, I see Faisal there. So, given our audience, can we segue into interest rates and Oman's debt? You showed a little bit of a lethal slide, which basically showed interest rates rising, United States interest rates rising. Now, how is this going to impact Oman's borrowing costs, as well as sovereign debt, given our dollar pay? And should Oman accelerate de-dollarizing the bonds?
Look, Oman has repaid again. Central Bank and Amanat will give us the latest figure, but I think it's about 14.5 billion we have reduced, the debt. So Oman has got a fairly, thanks to oil prices as well and all the reforms that we did, VAT and all the other bits and pieces and the work that we are doing. I don't see a need
Yes.
at the moment. And don't forget, there's another thing that if one central bank raises the interest, the speculative money, will jump to that country.
Sure.
So, the money will go other places as well. So speculative transactions takes place. I really don't think at the moment, but that doesn't stop us again being nimble.
Yes.
And I think I don't know if Asil is here or not, but she could have given you the right figures. And Adnan, you can tell us because we did invest and we did borrow from other places, isn't it? We had some Chinese.
Yes.
Debt management office.
Yes.
Adnan was the former head of debt management office. So they are nimble. They do
Yes.
get their advice and they will take money. So it's already there.
Okay, that's good to know. So we will open up to the audience in a minute. So maybe if Safana and Athena can take their positions. While they're doing that, let's talk a little bit about gold because I have a bit of cognitive dissonance, as you understand. It's been our favorite topic since 2012, Hamid. Gold, is it a panacea or a pitfall? And what I mean by that is gold is volatile. It's non-yielding, right? Yet you told us to us. How does this align with Oman's focus on economic stability and credit rating reforms, which we've been doing very well on of late?
Yeah, and as I said in my presentation as well, I'm not asking that your 17 billion reserves that you have just turn on into gold. That's definitely what I'm saying. All I'm saying is consider gold as an insurance. So I'm glad that His Excellency said there's already a decision has been taken in that respect.
Yes.
So look, it disconnects from the financial assets again.
Mhm.
So I'll give you one example that for every physical barrel of oil, there is 1,000 barrels of oil which is traded on stock exchange, which is synthetic asset.
Yes.
There's no barrel supporting it, it's purely speculative. In fact, I remember an incident which was, when the oil prices were very low, I did a presentation at Financial Affairs and Energy Council where the top ministers were there. And I mentioned this, that gold, the oil prices have gone down from 146 to $30, right?
Yes.
And you're talking about only 3 million barrels, surplus.
Yes. Yes.
That just proves my point. And I got a hug from one of the very senior ministers when he got up, okay, and he said, I didn't think about this, So the point I'm trying to say to you is there's a lot of synthetic transactions that goes around it.
Sure.
And I think, and gold to a certain extent did suffer from that. But when you have the new order, please don't forget that the essence of this today's meeting is the new order.
Yes.
You're talking about two giant economies of the world, okay?
Correct.
Both embarking on gold.
Correct.
And you haven't seen nothing yet. Russia is buying as well. India is buying gold as well. Every other country is going. And don't forget, there's only a limited mining capacity
Yes.
of gold.
Yes.
So, and if you I remember, that my grandmother, who was not even educated, but she always believed in buying gold. You know
For
what I mean?
bonds, yeah.
So I think this is a historical perspective, and same will be for Bitcoin as well. You know, because Bitcoin is a gold for the generation set, right?
Do you want to say a little bit about Bitcoin, or should we not open that?
We got an
can of
expert.
worms?
We got an expert here, and we can in question time we can answer that question. But yeah,
Certainly.
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so let's take some questions from the audience. Do we have anybody, either up, we've got the gentleman over here, Safana?
Yeah, just wanted to say that I charge $300 for each question.
But you do have an answer.
No question. No, thank you very much, really, for a wonderful presentation and a very stimulating
May I know who
session.
this person is?
Mohammed Suleiman.
Min Min?
Well, Mohammed Suleiman, I work with WJ Powell.
Ah.
My question is this, and you know, you mentioned the US, but you didn't get too much into it, right? The debt is 130% of GDP. The deficits with this new bill that you talked about are about 6% a year built up on top of that. And the entitlements are fixed, right? 70 or 80% of what they spend can't really be changed very easily. So the question I have for myself, and the one I want to ask you because I don't know the answer, is where does this go? How does this get fixed?
Well, this is where Scott basically said it's a heart attack movement. You've got to do something about it. I mean, this has gone beyond, you know. And sad part is there's still, I mean, if you look at the last budget, you know, which was just 1 week ago, 10 days ago, what is called brilliant and beautiful, they call it. They come up with nice names. So, I mean, you're absolutely right. You know, I personally think that that should be the priority. And you know, you haven't added the social security. You know, the US is the only one of the few countries that don't put the pensions and all. If you add pensions and all, it's 300%.
Yeah.
You know? So the point I'm making is that that's why the whole world is. I mean, I gave you an example of the bond, right? That 9%, the bond was 3.8%. Now 3% in the bond, that just doesn't make sense. So I really feel there has to be, and I think that's what Mr. Trump is trying to do, is basically open up for free trade, So therefore, he gets an equal footing. He wants to ensure. But then again, you reminded me a very important point that I missed I forgot, and that is, okay, it's good to talk about ensuring, right? But do you have the capacity? US doesn't have a power grid. Do you know that to really power all they want? I mean, just now data center sort of takes $10 billion value of electricity consumption. Do they have that? Then if you really look at the people, you need people, right? You need engineers. You need all these. So I'm not I'm not a guy who says US is bad. I'm just giving you the real factual information.
Especially if you overlay the immigration sentiment as hazards,
Yeah.
and so it adds to the complexity as well, presumably.
But don't forget, US is a very important sort of economy. As I said, 70% of the global consumption, and a lot of it, 10% of the top 10% buys, the top 10% in wealth buys 50% of the retail. So I'm pretty sure there will be an agreement between the countries eventually, which would come up with some kind of a solution. And absolutely, it has to be addressed. You're spot on again.
Excellent. Do we have another question from the audience? Thank you, Athena.
Hi, good evening, Hamid. Ali Lahad, how are you?
Ali, sorry, I didn't see you.
Welcome back to Muscat. I have a question. Should we allocate clearly anything in the Bitcoin now as a matter of assets allocation? It's important because this is something which some people have been ignoring it, but I feel that some allocation should go to the Bitcoin so that in long term it can get protected. And just to continue the question, I think Japan has even highest debt to GDP ratio, which is almost around 265% compared to USA, which is about just around 120%. But Japan has highest debt actually, but still it's a good economy. Thanks.
Yeah, Japan doesn't have, basically they include pensions in it. So if you compare that, USA is well ahead, okay? So Japan does include the social security into it. Bitcoin, he's a guru here with me, so he should answer.
I'm an amateur.
Yeah, but my own view is that, I mean, this is one of the assets which is again not connected with financialization, anything. Now, I don't know whether 100,000, I was wrong. Adnan used to tell me when he was, what, 30, 20,000, and I used to look at him and give him a, sort of a blank stare, so I really don't know that. I'm not an expert in that, so I don't want to mislead it.
We will crowd Adnan over coffee. There's some data points that we need to extract from you. Clear. So we move on to the next question. Do we have anything online, Keaton, by any chance?
No.
Nothing online? Anyone else in the room here? Safana, right in front of you.
Thank you very much. My name is Hamid Khan. I'm the country manager for Pakistan, a subsidiary of Oman Investment Authority. I've been working with some of the commodities, and I do ask one question among my peers, that why we are ignoring silver when creation of reserve, because it has a compound rate of like 7 to 8% when compared to 15% of gold when we consider decade, and it's comparatively a cheaper source in reserve creation. And secondly, regarding the Bitcoin thing, I have a question. Whoever expert over here is that recently I was working with one of the high performance center for the Bitcoin thing, and I came across that Oman is allowing around 350 megawatts in bit mining, but wallet creation is not allowed over here. The wallets are placed in Ras Al Khaimah or other. So effectively meaning the value generation is happening across the border. You are giving the cheap electricity and you are hitting your own reserve. So as the decision makers are here, why not you allow just those 350 megawatts into the system? And previous question stands still. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, silver has a more trading, it's used in industrial use as well, and it's compared, being very volatile as well. And perhaps that's the reason, in terms of why it is not considered as a part of the reserves, because gold stand tall and high.
Okay, any other questions from the audience? How are we doing for time, Giselle? We're good?
Yeah.
So I have a question. I mean, we are the Omani British Society after all. We've got Her Excellency, the British Ambassador here, and you are representing the British Omani Society. Of course, His Excellency Mahmoud, His Excellency Saleh. I need to ask you this question, Hamid.
Yes, go ahead.
Want another sip of water?
No.
So there's that kind of question. No, but seriously, in terms of sovereign wealth and British investments, I could not ask you this. As Oman's sovereign wealth funds are rebalancing, as you've been led to understand, what role can British institutional investors play? Also, are UK assets still attractive amid inflation and labor constraints?
I'm glad that Sel said we got all the time. I can talk for hours at no end, really, because, I mean, first of all, I mean, UK is a trusted partner, right? I mean, in the sense that Shell and BP, I mean, if you are from oil and gas industry,
Yes.
I mean, BP invested hundreds of millions, if I'm not right, and before even they put their contract, signed for the tight gas, okay? Shell has shared its technology. And today, if you see so many young, no more young, but I still consider myself, but a little bit younger than me, most of the senior positions that are occupied are somewhere they've worked in PDO, and Shell has groomed them. Mashallah, His Excellency Salman Alfi is a beautiful example of it. He went through that whole process.
Yes.
So Her Excellency mentioned 260 years. How could you beat that?
I'm shocked.
Yeah. So, lately, Oman Investment, sorry, not lately, Oman Investment Fund, which was before Oman Investment Fund, and in 2020 they merged together. I know somebody from Hawaii is that, correct me. But in 2016, I went to the leadership of both the sovereign wealth fund. I was also on the investment committee of OIF, and I said, my God, oil prices are down. We're going to do something, And they said, smart, fast, you tell us what to do. You're from Ministry of Finance. You tell us. And I went on a venture and really, I wrote my first paper, which is published on SSRN with Berkeley University professor, talking about that sovereign should invest in technology. Why? Because in a few weeks ago, I think I did a presentation on smart industry.
Yes.
You know, IMF Article 4, 2023 report, Amarnath, you may have seen it, that it talks about they've given a graph as well, by the way, that for last 20 years, Oman total factor productivity has been below zero. Okay, now total factor productivity have many reasons to be below zero, but technology is one of the important ones, you know. Oman, again in the same report of IMF, in terms of research and development, Oman is like this compared to others in terms of research and development. And and I did that presentation on BOSS last year, and then I started embarking on that journey. I said, how do we? I mean, so it's no good just talk. Let's do the walk. You know. So as I said to you, we invested in 2016. Oman invested when I did the paper. I presented to the minister and the deputy minister and and SGRF. And what we did was Oman Investment Fund invested in Oxford Science Enterprise, which is a spin out. Okay, so it's a commercial vehicle which then monetizes not all, but there are about 4,000 researchers on annual basis that are taken. Okay, and this spin out, which is called Oxford Science Enterprise, you know, is the owners are Google Venture, Temasek, you know, big boys, and by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, OIF also put money into it. And that's where the journey started. And I remember I met Jim, you met him, yeah, he was here a couple of weeks ago, the CFO of OAC. And right now, at that time I was studying in the gym, I'm not seeing this as an investment only. When these technology mature, I want this to come in the one to have partnership, and I want your verbal commitment to this day. Jim committed to that. You know? So when I went recently to him about sort of back in September, back in April, I said, let's do something. And lo and behold, I must credit OSC and also BOSS, British Oman Society, which gave me this opportunity to talk in UK. What we are doing now is basically what Jim did was I explained to OSC what is Oman requirement, because I lived 22 years, I was in minister. I had fairly good ideas what Oman wants. OSC had 140 portfolio companies. OSC then shorted it to 20, and then I did my own due diligence, and people here will know that how much I probably get carried away, you know, and shortlisted to only 4, you know, and we brought that. Basically, we were here 2 weeks ago, and the top leadership of the 2 portfolio, we participated in Oman Sustainability Week, and basically we had a workshop, which I think you attended, and Excellency Saleh attended, and Her Excellency attended. What the model here is, and that's talking about UK, I'm not drifted away. Yes. What the model is that while OIA invested in OSC, and OSC's portfolio companies are all these companies, what I want is technology partnership between PDO so that they start buying their technology. Okay, so that significantly reduces this one company, which is called Oxford Flow, which does a valve, okay, control valve of gas. You know, their valves reduces the cost. So, for example, current valves are say $100, their valves will cost you $40. You know, and it does zero emission, not even a 001. And you know who has recently bought those valves? BP International, not Oman, and ADNOC. And BP invested $25 million into it. Now just imagine that kind of a due diligence was already. So England has got a wealth of information. I'm sorry if I say that we have failed to bring them here. I think that's what I'm trying to do.
We do have 51% FDI at the moment.
Indeed, but what I'm saying is phenomenally higher opportunity.
Understood.
That's what I'm trying to say to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what that entails, just imagine, it addresses the oil industry. There is another technology, oil. I'll finish, I promise you. renewable energy, and you were there,
Yes,
right?
yes.
What this is actually Salman Al-Rufi committed to. He said, I will personally champion this.
She did.
Why? Because, Oman gas reserves, okay? You can earn, if you give it to Oxy or somebody else, you get little money. But just imagine if you convert it to LNG, you will get triple the money. It's not rocket science. So again, UK technology, can help you do that. And lo and behold, next day, and I was flying day after that. Next day, His Excellency gave me 2 contacts. I want you to go and see them now, and we saw them.
Perfect.
So there is a humongous opportunity. And just finally, just one more. This is a little cohort of OSE. When IP Group, which is a listed company, you can check it, they have access to 32 universities, including Imperial, Cambridge, UCL. When they heard it, they called me. They said, Hamid, we want to do business with Oman, we do the technology. I've seen some of the technologies.
Yes.
So there's a humongous opportunity for,
Good to know.
we need
Good to
to,
know.
British Oman Society and Oman Business Society,
Yes.
you guys to support us, and we have such a, sort of, mashallah,
We will.
Her Excellency with us.
We will. We
So
will.
I think you will see a lot here.
And Hamid, of course, is here. We have an opportunity to network. We've got some snacks and tea and coffee. So please don't run away. But before you go, Hamid,
There's more.
one last question. It's just
Time ran out.
we've got 5 more minutes. So, my main takeaways of your superb presentation, and it's really timely. It's really timely because there's so many analysts out there that have multifaceted views about what is happening, and it's unprecedented, isn't it? Now, our discussion, what comes to mind in particular as the key takeaways for Oman, given that we have a number of key decision makers in the audience, is I think what you're saying to us is, number one, diversify reserves into gold, commodities. You caveated the yuan, so fine, but we need to avoid dollar traps, is what I basically understood. The second thing I understood is to leverage neutrality in order to attract both Western and Eastern investments in true neutrality nature of Oman. And then the third thing I took away is to prepare for volatility when it comes to the US rate hikes, as well as protectionism is a word that we use. So as we walk out that door, what is it that you want us to take away in terms of key messages today?
I think you summed it up very nicely. All I would say is that, what I have shared today is some of the tools, and I think it would be lovely that if you guys go back, reflect on it, and one thing I would like, is that don't be static, I mean, keep an eye on it, what we have talked about today. There's, mashallah, such a lot of intellectual capacity here, and all you could do is help, this beautiful country, to come. We've got a beautiful partnership on technology. Never underestimate. I'm going to even extend my stay if you want me to stay, because I think it's really important that total productivity, we need to take it as a challenge, that it has to go way above zero. And we have partners ready to do business with us. You got DNA as well. PDO is a good example. I mean, you were the first people who were successful in enhanced oil recovery, right?
Yes.
I mean, okay, Shell had this technology, but PDO took it on and implemented it, right? And today, you are having more oil produced. I mean, I remember in 2012, we used to have 500,000 barrels, 550,000 barrels being produced at PDO. I understand now it's almost reaching 700,000 or something.
It's awesome.
700,000, and the cost is 15% down. Kudos. I think that should say.
Well done to team. On that note, we're going to close, but before we close, a bit of a marketing pitch. We are the Omani British Society. Please do join us. If you're interested in membership forms, we do have Mr. Keaton here who's got them. On the 28th of May, we're running a similar session on food security. When you look at the news at the moment, Nexus is a key word. So therefore, food security will be such an interesting gathering. Thank you for being here today. Thank you, Hamid, for everything. Don't run away. We would like to talk to you some more informally over snacks and drinks. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. No, we have the excellencies and so on. Habib.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. We're just in our first year. No, I'm in yeah, but my parents, I went to high school here, so my parents live there for the summer, so I'm visiting and seeing what I do.
बोलो कौन सा कौन सा डेटा माइनिंग वाला हमारा हम वाला चलो एक्शन को देखते हैं ना अच्छा मतलब मुझे लगा भगवान साइबर टेक तो एकदम मतलब उसमें इन्वॉल्व है बड़ा प्रोजेक्ट होता है मैंने Packet layout shooting. Just handed layout. What's that? The only thing that I think that speech in terms of speech about you're talking about this let's talk about I think you can appreciate value. Money that being that's the thing. So that's where I'm not involved with ICB. So what are we policies that we have
And also, when you're teaching plan that are visiting, this is gas engine. Gas, main gas engine.